Hello, greetings everyone. Hope you all are doing well, and I hope I'm audible. Can you just say that I'm audible or not? Hello. Thank you, Tarun. So, I would like to introduce myself first. This is Anchal, Vice President of AIS, Association of Indian Students, third year law student, and a CS aspirant. Today's session is going to be very interesting because we all gonna take golden points from today's session about how to plan your law school or how to plan your 5 year in law school. I'm delighted to give the introduction about the person who is gonna answer all your questions or queries today regarding your law school and its planning. The person I'm gonna invite in few more minutes is more like mentor in my personal as well as in my professional life. I would love to introduce you all to Mr. Varun Katiyar sir. He is president and founder of AIS, practicing advocate in Supreme Court, High Court, and other forums, and currently doing his LLM from Amity University, Noida. So, how many of you are very interested to take this session? I guess there is one yes and two yes. Thank you so much for telling me. So, moreover, he has been working for the welfare of young minds since long. Mr. Varun Katiyar sir is an advocate by profession and completed his graduation from Lloyd Law College, Greater Noida. He has been working for social welfare since his childhood and even more active in his college days, with the vision of establishing an association which will help students in their career by providing internship and job to different places. He has been judged numerous reputable debate competition across the country. His key area of interest is to promote and ensure the collective interest of students. He has taken on oath to promote, teach, and ensure the rights of students. Now, without further ado, I would like to call Varun Katiyar sir to take the further session. Thank you.
Achal, just give me 2 minutes. Like there's some network issue. I'll just give me 2 minutes.
Just wait for a minute. Varun sir will be joining us. He is facing some technical glitches right now and he'll join soon. Just wait for 1 2 minutes.
Hello, Ajal, am I audible? Hello, Ajal, am I audible? Hello. Okay. This is a very interesting session where I was invited by Sai to tell how we should plan our 5 years of in a law school. So I have been practicing for more than 1 year, and while practicing, there are many people who join as an intern with the firms I work with or with various other places. I have been able to figure out. Along with that, I've been really active in my college life. So in that situation, the students have. So one second. So students face a lot of issues, and the problem in they are not able to understand how they should plan their 5 years in law. So I'll take you through various aspects which are important in law course. So, a good lawyer requires good writing skills, good speaking skills, and good research skills. These are three key areas which you will be requiring after you complete your graduation and you start pursuing and practicing as an advocate, right? So, I'll divide the session into three portions on how you should plan your internships and how you should, secondly, on how you should plan your curriculum or learning and how you should be able to develop those skills which are required in the particular profession, right? So first, I'll start with curriculum. So, curriculum or learning, the difference between the practical knowledge and the bookish knowledge is a huge difference. When you would be learning things, you would learn a lot of things which you will never see in actual life, right? So, there is a huge difference between what we actually read and what is actually there in the codes. So, first thing, see, we get a division of subjects. Like I see there are many colleges where maximum colleges have five subjects in a year, in a semester, and then five subjects. So it is very important to for us to learn those to take each and every subject thoroughly. With regard to academics, this is what I'm saying. The very first year, for example, there is history of courts and there are legal history and then other subjects which law of torts, which we might think that they are not important. But when you come into practical exposure, you understand that each and every subject that is taught to you has some other importance. First aspect, right? So academics, we have to plan it in such a manner, and we read things, we learn, try to learn, and the most important factor is that we should prepare notes, which we do not do. Eventually, most of my friends and eventually me as well was not more inclined towards making notes or things which were taught to me to be brought to bring them in writing. Right. So this was one difficult wrong thing that I had or mistake which I did in my law school, but you should not do because law is a continuous learning and you would continue to learn even after years and years into practice, right? So there are many seniors, and this is a this is what you will see as a practice that people, many seniors know each and every section by their words, each and every word by the, like in their mind it is there, but they do carry prior acts. So law is a continuous process, and it's like a continuous process. You cannot stop that, right? So for that, first thing with regard to academics is that you should keep uh, keep maintaining your notes, and you should yourself develop this. See, law is a new or it's an endless process. You cannot say that this law might come to an end or something like that. So in that case, you should, what you should do is you should keep on researching on the various aspects and try to increase your knowledge on the particular things that you're being taught in your law schools, right? First is academics, not much is required, just basic things have to be learned and maintained, and then you, it's important to make notes because for not only for the purpose of revision, but also it will help you in future aspects. Like in future you forget some topics, so you can easily recall from your notes that these are there in this, and you read those notes and you can easily recall, because you will eventually be requiring those things entire in the entire life, right? Secondly, when we come to two important aspects: extracurricular activities and internships. So this is the major concern of every student. So students ask me, what should we do, moods, or should we do debates, or should we write research papers, I or other curricular activities. So mood competition necessarily includes ADR and other competitions as well nowadays. So now I'll tell you why these all competitions are important. So in the very beginning, I told you that three aspects of being a good lawyer is that you should have good drafting skills, that is, you should have good writing skills. Secondly, you should be able to convince the judge, so you should have good speaking skills. Thirdly, you should have good research skills. For example, you have to establish your case. You know that it is a very strong case, but you would not be able to establish that, because court works on documents and evidences that we present. So it would be your duty to present to the court the entire set of information. The judge sitting there is just going to judge you on the basis of the facts presented by you. He's not going to do his own research and add it to your case, right? So the first aspect, first, to be a good lawyer, we should be a good speaker. So now people will say that, see, mood is a combined practice. Mood is a combined practice where you'll be able to not only learn, speak, but research as well. But if you do moods, that doesn't mean you should ignore. So I have prepared a proper strategy for how a person should start learning. The person should start his studies from his extracurricular activities or his learning in law from debates. So debates will give you basics of how you should speak. They'll also help you in researching as well, because you will not speak anything which is not relevant. So doing research and then preparing, and that would not only remove your stage fear but other activities as well. So you'll not be moot requires a lot of legal research, whereas debates you will get competition, the various other aspects as well. For example, current topics which you can easily go through, you will be able to get those things easily available. But for moot, you need to be aware of the law and how those things should be. So in first and second year of your law school, it's very difficult for a person to do moots, because you're not knowing any law. You will only be taught uh, basic BA subjects or BBA subjects or BCom subjects, whichever stream you choose to. Right. So in that regard, you should plan it in such a manner that first and second year you do debates where you improve your research as well as speaking skills. Right. Then from third year, since you'll be more versed with, you will start learning laws and you will be more versed with law. You'll start understanding laws. So it would be an easy task for you to start doing research, doing these moot court competitions, because moot court competitions will not only help you, it will help you in all the three aspects. You will be given tasks to prepare uh, the moot memorials and everything. So it would be more of covering all the three skills. But doing it in the initial stages, for me, I suggest would not be a good option, because you would then not be aware about the law, and without being aware of the law, you cannot put those things rightly, right? For example, you are not knowing what section of IPC. You do not know much about IPC, and then you have to do moot on IPC, and you have not studied anything on IPC, so you will not be able to put those things. Maybe you go and read those things and try to put those things forward, but that would be a difficult task, because you do not know how exactly to read or interpret those things, right? So it is much more preferred for the first year and second year students to do debate competitions, so that to increase their research skills as well as to increase their speaking skills. And eventually they should do at least 5 or 10 debate competitions in first and second year, so that they're much more versed. And so every debate competition comes with a winner and other incentives as well. So that would not only help you once you win one much. I've participated in more than 15 moot court debate competitions, and then adjudicated more than 10 or 15 of the these debate competitions across the country. And so I am well versed. See, I did this all these activities till third year of my law college, right? Then so it was sad that in fifth year when I was supposed to do moot court competitions, I the COVID started and everything stopped. That was the initial stages of COVID, and we were not very well versed with organizing these competitions online, right? So first year and second year, most probably you should do debate competitions. Third year, fourth year, and fifth year, you should devote yourself to moot court competitions. And moot court competitions are not one day investment. They require at least 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 months of deep research, and then you will be able to prepare one good memorial, and then you will be able to do those things, right? So this is a continuous process of learning. Thirdly, coming to research paper, why research papers are relevant? See, research papers not only today, but in the entire life you'll be requiring. So if you plan to do litigation, or even if you don't plan to do litigation, if you're planning to do corporate work or some other work, the more research papers you have in your publication, the more intensified you will be with you'll get more and more opportunities. You see, it's just a myth that you cannot secure placement in tier one firm. You can easily secure placement in tier one firm. Just for that, you need to have good research papers in your skills. Though there's a criteria that you should be from law NLUs, and that is they are given much more preference. But see, it's not always the people from NLUs who reach out in the tier one firm. There are people from other law schools as well, right? So research papers, and then how the research papers should be planned. These are important things. Nowadays, there are a lot of places where you can get your research paper published. You can pay a amount and get your research paper published, but that would not be of any help. Reason being, I'll tell you why. See, you do research paper. What does the research paper mean? Research paper means you do an extensive research, combine those things, and then send it to a publisher who, if finds that content suitable for his particular publications, he might publish that same. Right. So, and you will see that there is a continuous process of people writing books and everything. So more and more research papers should be written by you, but not copy paste. And I know that there are various apps which, see, I'm not too old to not know these things, but I know that there are many apps where you can now use to do paraphrasing and remove the plagiarism and everything. So to make it look like an original content, but it's just a copy paste that has been paraphrased. So that would not be of any help. Reason being, see, these people, if you submit somebody your CV and you have a lot many publications and you do not know anything about those publications, right? So then that person will be easily be able to understand, see, this person has not done research in this particular field and has just copied or read something from somewhere and just copied that thing from there and pasted in this content, right? So do not do these activities, because these activities, see, legal profession is all about how true you remain to your profession. So do not try shortcuts while you do research papers. Thirdly, coming to internships being a major part and where we most of us are not able to figure out how we should do. I see people from first year and second year doing internships in Supreme Court and High Court. I don't understand what you will learn in Supreme Court and High Court if you are not even taught even single subject, or if you are taught law of torts or other small subjects which are not relevant at that point of time in Supreme Court and High Courts. Until unless you are taught Constitution or Criminal Procedure Code or IPC, how can you approach Supreme Court and High Court? Because the question there, the question is only about on the discussion or arguments are only on question of law. These high courts or Supreme Courts are not our constitutional courts, which are not having any say in doing trials, right? So you cannot start. See, this is just one where people have been doing mistakes, that they start their internships, the planning of the internships, and start doing internships in Supreme Court and High Courts in the very first year of their practice. But see, BCI has also prepared a manner in which we should do internships. I'll just go and tell you. They say that in first year of their law school, you should do internships with NGO. Why they ask you to do internships with NGO? Because NGO has a lot of paperwork where you will be given a lot of works where you have to draft some documents and other things. That is not much of legal work, but it gives you an exposure to what actually the legal work would be, right? Secondly, going to district courts, see, people who think that actual practice is in Supreme Court and High Court, I'll say this to you that no, every matter goes to Supreme Court or High Court when it is a trial matter. So it will have to go to the concerned court, major league court, in MM courts or session court or district court or district judge court or courts like that, right? So these matters would always be tried in district courts. They will never be tried in High Court and Supreme Court. And in High Courts, in certain circumstances where an additional evidence comes out during the case of appeal, you will be allowed to do trial in that stages, right? That is something which is not relevant. So second year and third year, you should plan yourself in High Courts and not in High Courts, in district courts, so that you are well versed or you try to learn the basics of the trial and the basics of civil trial, criminal trial, and not only this, but if you plan to be in corporate, then now by the time you are in third year, you will be able to figure out, see, do I want to do these things in future or not? And if you in the very first year of your law school, you are able to understand that you want to go into corporate and you have joined law with the purpose of going to corporate, that means you should start looking for firms which are offering you internships in corporate sector, but they'll not give you much more work. So initially you will be involved in making I'll answer that. It will be mostly involved. They will involve you in making drafting agreements and also agreements and contracts. So that will be the initial stages in your degree corporate world, right? So fourth year you can plan around high courts where you'll be getting how the appeals and writ petitions under 226 and various other appeals are filed, right? And there are some original jurisdiction cases as well, like commercial cases with more than 2 crores of which includes more than 2 crores of amount would be in Supreme Court, higher in High Court, right? And then fifth year in Supreme Court, so you'll be much more versed with these factors. And once you are in well versed with these facts, you will be you should do diversity till third year of your law school only, because this is what I personally believe. Because once you are in third year, you are left with only 2 years of your law school, and you have to invest these 2 years into the particulars where you want to do specialization. For example, you want to do tax law, you have to work accordingly, and you have to put yourself into taxation law, and you have to continue working in tax field as well, right? So, what are you asking, Atul? Like, can you speak? Like, it would be much better if you speak. Atul, you were saying something. Can you please speak? Uh, So, Achal is asking, is it really important to take that peer pressure? See, I have been working on two aspects now and nowadays. See, I have a very important goal. First is to ensure that every school, every college, or every educational institution has a, uh counselor in their educational institutions, for the reason being that this age. So this is very important aspect. See, peer pressure is nothing but it will only put you under pressure. So taking any sort of pressure is not good, because it will not only impact your health, but will not help you in working. See, I have a very clear funnel that the less you fall ill, the more you will be able to work. Right. So this is one aspect. So in this circumstances, what I will say is ki it's not important to take any sort of peer pressure. Reason being, uh, see, you will already be pressurized when you are doing this profession. You're choosing a profession which is all about pressure and how you handle this pressure. So from the very first year, if you're able to manage this pressure and put yourself and portray yourself in such a situation where you are much more versed with how to handle pressure. Because see, there will be many situations where your client would be behind bars and you'll be compelled or you'll be under pressure to get him out. And that's not possible. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, this is one of my major work which I want to do throughout my law life, that I want to ensure that every educational institutions appoint counselors. See, this is the practice in foreign countries. I've seen this practice in. I've never visited those countries, but I've studied about those countries a lot, and I have been studying about the manner in which education is given in other countries as well. So I was able to figure out that in various countries across the world, they have a counselor who is easily available for people who think that they're stressed. See, we live in a country where we do not believe in speaking about our problems, and if we eventually try to speak about our problems, the people will mock about us, right? So this is where the psychologist or the counselors are required. See, even though we are mature at the age of 18, we are not exactly mature when we are deciding a future. You will require a lot of guidance, and if you get guidance, you will not be able to. Maybe there are various parents who are in that condition who help you. Every parent helps you, but we fear going to them and asking them about how what should we do, right? So that creates a lot of mental pressure on us. So that is one of the aspects that I think is very important, correct way or systematic way of research, right? So this is very important, how we should do things. See, I'll give you one example. See, uh, for example, you have to do a research on Prevention of Money Laundering Act, right? How, what is Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and you have to prepare a note on it, and you have to do a detailed research on it. So, what will be the major uh, aspects that you'll cover? So, I'll we what we do is initially we start with historical background. Why this act came into existence? Why this act came into existence? What were the circumstances under which this act came into existence? Secondly, is there any act which was into existence before this act was enacted, right? So that is one first aspect. Historical background is to be looked into. Second, internationally, what is the provisions with regard to this particular crime? This is a white collar crime. So what is the provisions with regard to prevention of money laundering in various countries across the world, right? Second aspect. Third aspect, what is being covered into this particular act? Fourth aspect, what you see, what is your suggestions to the same? And fifth is conclusion. Conclusion is basically all about, right? Then this is the system, right? You always start with history, you end with and any research with your conclusion. This will always be continued. Be it doing your projects, be it doing your thesis, be it doing your PhD thesis, being it doing your dissertations or anything. You'll have to always plan it in a such manner. And before choosing a particular topic for research, you should be well equipped. Like, see, will this topic have any interest? For example, I took a session on default bit. So I started it from the very initial stages, how historically it was taken into, and what is bail, and see defining them, and then what are the provisions for the same, what is the context, which is what are the other countries think about it, any case law, anything important is there, and then what is my suggestions and what is my conclusion in it, right? So now you can ask questions, but start asking questions by speaking, because it would be difficult for me to read messages. Unmute yourself and ask questions. Anyone wants to ask questions? Zainab, so how to learn drafting thoroughly? See, we'll never be able to learn. See, it's a continuous process. See, I always say, this is not what I believe. This is what the entire legal fraternity believes, that law is all about continuous learning. See, once I started my profession in 2020 after I graduated from law schools. I did a lot of drafting before that as well. But once I was given start, I started working as an associate and started I was given the task of started drafting, right? I used to do a lot of mistakes. Personally, this is what personally I'm telling to you that I used to do lot many mistakes. And like my draft, once I used to send my draft to my seniors, they used to do 80% of the correction in those drafts because I was not knowing how to plan those things and do it correctly, right? Now, after that, with the time being, I started structuring those things. I started learning how the draft should be presented. See, it's a more of a practical exposure that would be required for you to learn drafting. So you cannot learn drafting based on the. You can just know the ideas and concept of drafting, but you cannot know about these aspects without uh, studying about it or without having a practical knowledge about it. See, because drafting and argument are two things which you learn while you will be exposed to them. You'll have direct exposure to this because you will not be able to learn these things without having practical exposure to it. Right? Any other questions? Please unmute yourself. There is no fear of I am also one of among the you, but it's just that I have completed my graduation before you and I am practicing and having some experience which is more than you. That is that I've decided to come forward and guide you people so that you do not do the same mistakes I did in my law school. Right? Please ask your questions and please unmute yourself and speak. See, it's more of giving lectures. I do not like giving. Uh, Tarun is unable to speak. Can you please allow Tarun to speak? Tarun, please unmute. Now I believe you will be unable to unmute.
Yes, sir. I want to ask that the correct place to find the correct information about your research work,
Oh, that is one thing.
like websites and other things.
Tarun, research. So you want to know what are the correct platforms for research, right?
Yeah, sir.
So correct platforms for research. Uh, being in legal fraternity, I'll tell you the sources which are authentic and where you can get proper information. So these are code. For code and other matters, you should refer to. See, you are all aware about SEC, Manupatra, and all these things. You'll be able to do research has been made easy by these platforms, right? Secondly, you refer to the reports of the government or reports of the authorities who have a legal sanctity. A government report is more sanctity than for any legislative relating work. PRS is considered to have a much more very good approach than only see we Press Trust of India and other uh, Press Trust of India is considered to be authentic with regard to news and everything. So with regard to research, what should I suggest? Every field has different aspect, right? This is what I'll say. Exactly going through. Now SCC and Manupatra has made it very easy to do research. So that is in which sphere of research you're asking with regard to research paper if you're asking. So I'll tell you that you'll be able to get the background historical details about the same on the legislative website that I told you, PRS, for example. For example, you have to write a research paper on crime or offenses uh, under POSCO or something like that. So you can take the data from National Crime Record Bureau, right? So that is there. Secondly, for example, if you have to refer to some recommendations, you have to find recommendations. So you can read law commission reports and other activities from there as well, right? So these are all things that are there. These are all websites that are there, and see books I cannot name many books because see once we start naming books, there are thousands and thousands of books which are there. So this is what I'll say with regard to research. Tarun.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yes, Tarun.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions anyone else wants to ask? Somebody
Sir,
was
I
saying
also want to ask how much college plays. What is the role of college? Does college matter a lot in our career?
see in short run, uh, in short run of like see in the initial stages it might matter to you, but once you start learning and you are well versed with this fact, nobody will ever ask you your marks, your marks and your law school. See, judge will never ask you which law school you studied in. If you're able to put yourself your arguments very well before him, he'll never be asking you. So this, so now since you have asked me this question, I'll make it very clear to you guys. See, the amount of remuneration you'll get in the initial stages would be very less, and there's a reason why this is happening. I've spoken to many seniors about why this is so less, and see, we have been doing so much in our law schools. We have invested so much money, and we just get a penny with regard to the same. So they told me, like, even senior advocates have this, or any everyone has this opinion that see, we once we enter into profession, see, if you see other professions, being a doctor, being an engineer, they get a lot of practical exposure during their internships, right? So during our internships, we are more into more into we'll not be allowed to argue and those things, right? But during internships and doctors, they are made more well versed with the facts, right? So, and we do not take our internship seriously also. This is the problem that most of the law students have, is that they just do the internships for the sake of name or just for the sake of they have to do it as a mandatory process. So that should not be the thing. But once we start learning, once we start entering, once we enter into the profession, it's more of a responsibility to us to learn, right? So if you start learning from the law school, you might not be able to get a good remuneration in the first 6 months of your practice or first year of your practice. But if you come forward after 1 year of your practice as a very good lawyer, as a very excellent lawyer, you are able to do good research, you are able to do good drafting and other activities, so you'll get a good remuneration thereafter. So that is one aspect. Second is with regard to uh, that everything. See, you as a lawyer will start getting exposure only after you graduate. Majorly putting your case, arguments, will not be allowed to argue in the initial stages. And judges don't like, see, most of the judges say that they motivate young faces, but it's a common practice that they would love to hear seniors before you. Right, and if a senior is appearing before you, before like against you in a case, and then you will never be able to, you will be facing a lot of difficulties in saying those things to him, right? So one thing. Secondly, uh, these are the things with regard to litigation. So, since Akanksha asked the questions with regard to how we should prepare for judiciary, so as I started with the academics, I told you that we should start preparing notes. And so, if you are a if you are an aspirant of judiciary and you want to be a judicial officer in upcoming days, so you should be much more into extensive. See, you should not be focusing more on your internships and these things, but while you are in your law school, you should be investing more and more time in learning about the various aspects. And before, so for example, we are given a curriculum, and we should be more of a manner that we put forward things. We ask teachers about our doubts, and see, law school is the only place where you'll be able to ask things from your teachers, right? After that, you have to pay a huge sum of amount to the coaching institutions to take coachings for judiciary to get those knowledge. But in the law school itself, if you want to be a judicial, if you are a judicial aspirant, you can start your practice learning from law school. You once you, for example, you have IPC, and you have to know more and more about 302, for example, murder and culpable homicide. You can prepare, you can read, and then you can put forward those doubts to your teachers, and the teachers will help you learn those things, right? So you should start keeping these things in your knowledge from the very initial stages also, right? you should more focus more on your academics because it's about academics. And then preparing yourself for interviews also one important aspect, because many people are rejected on interviews of scale as well, right? Any other questions? Any other questions, or we shall end this session? Yes, please unmute and speak, or yes or no. Answer, I believe there are no more questions, so can we end this session now?
So there is one question: how to prepare for judiciary exam?
I told them, right? So I answered that question to that. For that, I told them that they have to focus more on see judiciary. You'll be more you have to be aware about, see, judicial examinations all about how you are good into, you should have good and deep knowledge of those aspects. For example, you have to study IPC, so IPC has to be studied in depth to be a judicial aspirant, and to get successful as a judicial in judicial examinations. You should be knowing those every aspect in depth. So you, while you are studying for your academics, you should be more and more concerned about increasing your knowledge and putting, see, you have to be ahead of other people if you want to be a judicial aspirant, right? So any other questions, Ajay, or we can end this?
No, there's no other questions. I guess we have answered all the question, whatever is asked. So yeah, I guess we can wrap up. If anybody want
All
to
I
ask,
wanted to say, and that is, this is
yeah.
these are the various aspects you guys should focus and see. You should you know how much. Don't ask this question to me. I cannot answer this question. How much they do pay? Do they pay? See, there is a system where there are good companies paying a good amount in the initial stages. Also, see, that all depends upon your abilities, about your skills, how well versed you are with their, how much return you give to them is the manner in which they pay to you. Right? There are companies who start paying from in lakhs, and the companies who pay only 10,000, 20,000 in the initial days. So this is the harsh reality of our profession. Stop. Do not expect a huge sum once you start entering. At least for 5 years in your practice, you have to bear the cost. Right?
So there's one question for all of my fellow friends. Is it really important to engage yourself in so many debates and moods while you are having 5 years of your course for getting a good job or placement or for being a good advocate?
See, moot courts and debates don't help you in securing good jobs, and it's a lot of trophies I have, a lot of awards and everything. But those things don't help me in securing my job. But what will help me in securing my job is more how good knowledge of law I have, how my drafting skills are, how my speaking skills are, and how well I am able to do research on. So for these skills, it's not about doing more and more code competitions just for the purpose of adding them to your CV. That would not help. It's just like that you should be learning those things, and learning. So doing one competition and learning a lot of things is much more relevant than doing a lot of competitions and learning very less. Right? Anything else, Anshul? Or
No, sir, this is from my end, and I can see there is no messages chat till now. So
so we
yeah,
can end this session.
yeah, totally.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. It was also a great session because of all your questions. And see, I just want to give one suggestion to all of you: don't